Hello, everyone. This is the Faithful Life Podcast. I'm Matt Jacobson of FaithfulMan.com.
And I'm Lisa Jacobson of Club31Women.com. We're so glad you're here with us.
At Faithful Life, we explore what it means to be a biblical Christian in today's world, in our marriage, parenting, church, and culture.
It's real, raw, and relevant.
So let's get started. Hey, everybody. Here we are at the top of the week.
Yes. Hello, friends.
All right. Hope you had a great weekend together. Listen, we had a big weekend. We had a weekend, I think, that God ordains, just like every other weekend, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of times those weekends or weeks or days are filled with things that you wouldn't choose for yourself. But that doesn't mean that God wasn't there at every step.
Yeah, we walked through some things that we certainly wouldn't choose for ourselves, and your dad wouldn't choose for himself, I'm sure. As many of you know, Matt's parents have lived with us for the last 20 plus years, and Matt's dad is on hospice, and so we care for him quite a bit, and he cares for us as well in his ways. But this past week, he took a turn for the worse, and now it's kind of down to him mostly staying in his chair. But it's amazing to me how much he does from that chair, and he prays for us, he supports us, encourages us, and you would think at this point in his life that he would turn the focus on himself, right? And yeah. I'm so blessed by the way he actually thinks of others and does what he can even from his own place of weakness.
You know what? He has never done that actually his whole life. He's never made it about him. Mm-hmm. He's never turned every conversation to his latest challenge or trial or whatever he's facing. He has always been outward looking and considering of others, so that whenever a nurse shows up, and he's got quite a number of them that cycle through in his week, they all get to hear about the gospel.
The gospel and our podcast. I think those are his two main topics right now, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
I love
that. So we're going to talk a little bit about our supporters, the people that are part of this journey with us, but we wanted to start with talking about our number one supporter, which is Dad. Mm-hmm. You know, he, as you mentioned, he's supported us in so many ways, and he has supported us financially in this effort, and that's just something that we love and value and just deeply appreciate about him. Thank you, Dad. What an amazing encouragement that you have been to us.
Yes,
and we
Dad.
love you, and we thank you. And yeah, a little step closer to eternity. Certainly not something we choose for ourselves, because we want to keep you around, but God's way is best. And so we embrace him and his way, and we're going to keep hanging on to you as long as we can.
Yep.
But yeah, so thanks for your support. For those of you who want to join Dad in supporting what we're doing, and many have, and we want to say thank you. But we are still looking for people who are valuing the podcast in terms of their own lives, the things that have been meaningful and helpful to them. If you're one of those people, we're asking you, would you please go to FaithfulMan.com and become a partner with us by supporting us at a suggested donation of $10 a month. Certainly, you can keep listening at no charge, but if you would do that, just keep in mind that we produce 8 podcasts a month. That's like $1.25 per podcast. It helps us do what we believe God's called us to do, what we certainly are enjoying doing, and we're hoping that you're enjoying as well. So please consider being a supporter of the podcast by going to faithfulman.com/donate and leave a $10 monthly donation. We would really, really appreciate that, and it'd help us continue doing what we're doing.
All right, on to today's topic, which we are really excited to talk about because it's something that's very close to our hearts, as you probably know, and it's about how to love your husband and how to love your wife and our new books that are coming out, well, re-released books.
All right, yeah, exactly. So what Lisa's talking about is the 100 Ways to Love Your Wife and 100 Ways to Love Your Husband books. And these were our first books that we published,
5 years ago, plus?
About 5 years ago. And they sold pretty well. And so Revell came along, that's our publisher, and they want to re-release those in new editions, which happens October 1.
Yes.
So these books are hitting the street October 1. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about them and a little bit about the journey that we've had with these books. And frankly, the surprise that they've been to us, because the fact is these books are just really straightforward, really sort of street level, what you can do right now in the moment kinds of books. And the impact that they've had has been it's just been a big surprise to us, and we're just super grateful that a lot of people have found them helpful and a blessing.
All right, so I will read just the introduction from 100 Ways to Love Your Husband.
Okay, so that's a good idea. Why don't you read your introduction and then I'll read mine.
Okay. So how did you know he was the one? The one you wanted to spend the rest of your life with? That's what the girls were asking me. How did you know that Dad was the guy? I felt I should have had an answer ready on the tip of my tongue, a thoughtful insight of some kind. But mostly, I just remember him walking into the dinner party with his confident stride, wearing a thick, manly sweater, black Levi's, and Western boots. Tall, dark, and, believe me, handsome, with deep blue eyes. But that doesn't really explain anything. I mean, no one simply falls in love with a pair of boots, do they? No. It was more than that. Way more than that. It was the way our eyes connected and how we got lost in conversation the moment we sat down together. The way we forgot that there were other people at the party. The way we talked about traveling in France, my experiences in West Africa, and how we both love Chopin and the same Billy Joel song. We could have talked forever. Except that our hostess called us to dinner, abruptly reminding us that there were other people in the world, or at least other people in the room. So I had to settle for staring at him from across the table, because by then, I knew. I was looking at the man I was going to marry. He was the one I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, talking, laughing, and loving together. My happily ever after, my very own Mr. Right. But I had yet to learn that meeting the right guy is one thing, and loving him year after year is quite another. That marrying him would turn out to be both an amazing adventure and a challenge, a relationship like no other. I would discover that finding your Mr. Right is not a one-way ticket to happiness, but only the beginning of a lifelong journey of learning to love each other. Maybe you're on a similar journey. You're newly married, have been together for decades, or still waiting to meet the one God has for you. If so, then I'd like to share a few wonderful ways to love that man of yours. All right, more than a few, more like 100 ways.
I'll never forget those eyes dancing above the rim of her glass the moment I walked into the room. The first dance of many, wild and wonderful. As I lay across the bed from my beautiful, lovely bride during our Hawaiian honeymoon, a typically generous gift from my brother and sister-in-law, those dancing eyes held my gaze, their radiance intensifying a vague sense of loss. Time. Suddenly, all those years without her seemed lost. Drinking in the moment's wonder, my fingers fell lightly high upon her cheek, tracing to her lips the soft outline of her face. Why didn't I meet you 10 years ago? Where were you? Look how much time we've missed being together. But life is like that, isn't it? One day, we wake up in an oasis wondering why we wandered around in the desert for so long. I purposed right then and there, 27 years ago, laying on the bed in our room on the 5th floor of the Lahaina Shores Hotel on Maui. I would cherish this woman, my bride, this breathtaking gift from God, every day of my life. How great it would be to report that I have loved Lisa perfectly. I cannot. I've caused her tears, been unloving, insensitive, and downright sinful at times. But I can report to you that Lisa has been and is, today, a cherished woman. I'll be transparent. She makes it easy for me. I reach out from the inside to let her know how much she matters to me. She knows this, that it's serious business with me. Lisa is my priority because Jesus Christ made her my priority. And he expects to be obeyed. He wants me to love her as he loves his bride. Jesus is the example for every Christian man to know how to truly cherish his wife. Wait a minute, Jesus isn't married, somebody might say. But he is, or he soon will be. His bride is the church. And Christian men are instructed to love their wife as Jesus loves his. That's in Ephesians 5:25. You see, if you claim to be a Christian man, being the husband of a cherished woman just isn't optional. It is the call of God on your life to preach the gospel with the power of your love for your wife, an expression to the world of how Jesus Christ loves his bride, the church. If Lisa isn't cherished, I'm walking in sin, and I must change. The same is true of every married Christian man. The scriptures say, when you love your wife, you're actually loving yourself. Because according to God, the two of you are one single entity. And a truly cherished woman takes great pleasure in returning that love with interest.
Oh, honey, that's beautiful. I fell in love with you all over again.
Awesome. Hey, that's why I read it. But no, those are the introductions for our two books. Now, the books themselves are very different than that, right?
Yes.
Because they're really short, individual entries that you can read just in minutes. They don't take long at all, but there's 100 of them in each book. And so we're going to share some of those a little later.
But before we do, I don't know about you, but I love a love story. And so we have some love stories that we want to share with you. These are true stories, people that have written in who have read these books and just share what God has done through these books in their marriage. And I think you're going to love it. All right. This is from Ben and Susan, and it says, "These books are great and so easy to read. My husband and I have been married for 3 years, and we were going through a rough patch. I was at the point of wanting to leave, and I think he was ready to pack my crap for me." I shouldn't have said that. But okay. I purchased these books, and I threw mine in my backpack to bring to work with me and stuck his in his lunch bag. I doubted he would even open the book, but I could at least say I tried, right? The next morning, I noticed the book was still in his lunch bag, but I noticed that halfway through the book, he had turned down the corner of the page to mark his spot. Could he truly have been reading this book, I thought to myself. I flipped through the book, and he had even made notes. The next day, I started reading my book and finished it the next day. Each page has a simple sentence or two, simple reminders to love, honor, and respect your husband. As I read, I started to remember why I fell in love with this man that I call my husband. This book didn't save my marriage, but it did remind both my husband and myself of the many reasons that we loved each other. And once we could see past all the anger and negativity and climb back on the solid foundation of our marriage, everything else seemed to fall into place. So I guess maybe these books did save my marriage. Thank you.
That is awesome.
Isn't that a beautiful story? I
Wow.
love that one.
Wow. You know, this isn't a unique response that we've gotten. And yet it's so incredible and so powerful. And folks, this stuff surprised us when it started coming in. It really did. Because these books are practical, everyday kinds of things that we can tend to forget. But anyway, that's an amazing story. So gotta love that. Just gotta love it. So here's a story from, well, you know what? He didn't want us to use his name, but here's what he says. My marriage is in trouble, deep trouble. I've been searching for what I did wrong. I've read a lot of books and articles. This simple book, he's talking about 100 Ways to Love Your Wife. This simple book summed up everything in less than an hour. I cried so hard on some pages because I saw myself on that page. I saw my mistake. I saw how to fix my mistake. When I got to number 86, my heart sank. Number 86 is about how your wife will never slam the door of her heart. She'll just close it incrementally over time through years or months or, just whatever the process of neglect that you've been on. That incremental closing of her heart. She doesn't slam it all at once. But man, when it's closed, you need dynamite to get it open. You frankly need a miracle. All right. And that's the one he's talking about. When I got to number 86, my heart sank. I pray that it doesn't get that far for anyone. I pray that I got this book in time to save my own marriage. I think this book should be issued to couples when they apply for a marriage license. It's a very simple, common sense approach that you just don't think about. It should be reviewed once a month. It's that important. Thank you for this jewel.
Wow.
So, wow. Yeah. So we hope he did get it in time. And I have to say, another guy wrote recently, and he said, he was just rejoicing. He got the book. And he said, we're already divorced. But he said, my wife's giving me another chance And so he's
Oh, wow.
reading the book and applying the book, and he was just rejoicing that his wife was giving him another chance, even though they've already gone through the process of divorce.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord. We thought we would read a few excerpts from these books just to give you an idea of what's in them and also just encourage you starting today in your marriage. So here's just one from 100 Ways to Love Your Husband. And it's number 25. Make his love your priority above your work, above your list, and even above your children. After Christ, this is the next most important relationship in your life, and it should be reflected in the decisions that you make with both your time and your energy.
So, rocket science, right? No, it's a change of priority. It's a change of perspective. And it's putting the right priority where God wants it, and where God wants the emphasis. So, all right, so here's one from 100 Ways to Love Your Wife. Number 12. Hold her close until she feels the strength of your conviction. Your wife has a heightened sense of the care you have for her. For the most part, she doesn't want a hug that says, "Yeah, you're my pal." Husbands can communicate so much with a hug. So don't give hugs that say, "Yeah, whatever." She wants something more. Give the kind of hug that says, "I love you a lot." When you hold her, make sure she knows where your true feelings lay. Make her a believer in the depth of your love with hands and arms that leave no questions.
You know, I have to say that when you do that, when you take just those extra few seconds even and hold me a little tighter, like just even this weekend. Sorry.
Yeah, she's just talking about when we were sharing a moment about Dad,
Yeah.
and just kind of walking it out together. But we just had a moment in the kitchen where we were holding each other. So
Sometimes it's not even words that you need. It's just those loving arms around you. And I was really grateful for that.
Yeah, and it's not always, and this is the other thing too. Sometimes I think it's easy for a guy to think of physical touch as a sexual emphasis. And there's so much power in that non-sexual physical touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and holding each other. So anyway, hold her close until she feels the strength of your conviction.
I wanted to read another testimony that really touched me, and it just says just what I needed. Again, talking about the 100 Ways to Love Your Husband book. Sometimes, as a wife, we get so busy with our lives, kids, work, household, that we start to feel overwhelmed, tired, angry, neglected, unappreciated, that we can't see that our husbands haven't changed. They are still there doing what they've always done. But now, when they want affection, we are too tired or see it as that's all you want and not realize they love you and need that connection with you. Don't push them away. Love the fact that they still love, want, need you. This book reminded me that we are best friends. Make time for each other. Greet him with a smile like you would your girlfriends. Let him know you are his number one supporter. Believe in him. I teared up a bit while reading this. This is the gal writing this. Wish I would have read it 10 years ago. But it's really never too late to change and want to be a better wife. This is a quick read. I plan to order this for my parents and siblings for their anniversary gifts. Thank you, Lisa.
Awesome. Yeah, you know what? One guy wrote in, and he bought, what did he do, nine sets?
Yes.
For the people that he knows. So anyway, hey, here's another one from a man. I read this book and now keep it as a great idea book to reference. It's so easy to apply, to make daily application. This is not about building a broader framework for your marriage. It really is just simple tips on how to love in easy ways. My wife is my best friend, but I do sometimes blank out for date night or just a good idea on what to do next. Something to do for her that's nice. This is a great book for those times. And he's just talking about those times that every guy faces. Yeah, we love our wives. Sometimes we just run out of ideas. That's what this book is. It's a resource book. a reference book for ideas, either to change a way we're thinking, which will then follow through in a way we're acting toward our wives, or some concrete thing to do to love and bless your wife.
Yeah, that's really encouraging. And it's so true. I think a lot of times we talk to men, these husbands who say, you know what, I do love my wife. I know she doesn't feel loved by me, but I do love her. And these are just those simple ways of, hey, here's a way to express that love. Here's a way to demonstrate that. So I love that. All right, I was going to read a few more from
Yeah,
our
go
book.
for
Okay.
it, totally.
So again, just kind of randomly chosen here, number 64. Cling to each other in the hard times. Don't let trials pull you apart, but be sure they bring you closer together instead. This decision is best made before the trial comes. When our daughter was born with severe brain damage, the hospital warned us that most marriages don't make it through a tragic situation like ours. That thought terrified me. But we looked at each other and decided, right then and there, we were going to stick through it together.
Wow. One woman wrote and said, I got this book from my husband. He's actually reading it. They're short, 1 page per day. Doesn't take a lot of time, yet gives great advice and input. Another guy wrote in and said, my father-in-law hates to read. But with how this book is divided into 1 and 2 minute sections, he's really enjoyed the book for his own marriage. So here's a guy that got it for himself, and then his own father-in-law starts reading it too. And it really is very straightforward, very simple, with very short sections. Nobody's going to get locked down on a chapter that's going to take them, 4 days to read. It's just really a simple 1 to 2 minute, dip in, refocus your thinking, and then go and employ what you've learned in your marriage.
Yeah, I have a similar testimony from Savannah. She just said, my husband and I are currently reading the 100 Ways to Love books, and our relationship is blooming. We are loving each other more and more and learning to see things from each other's perspective again. We almost have that high school giddy love back from when we first started dating. I owe it to those books. It saved our marriage that we were ready to give up on. I will forever be grateful for finding these books. That really deeply touched us. Obviously, those of you who are listening know that it's God that's doing this work through these simple books based on biblical principles, practical things. So we're really deeply moved by everyone's testimony that they've shared with us.
So I know that a lot of the people out there that have been listening and then listening to the Marriage Weekend, this is our shorter format where we just talk about one thing for the weekend. I know that lots of you are on point when it comes to dating each other, when it comes to that purposeful spending time together, because you love each other, not because you have to, not because you're checking off a box, but because you just like spending time with each other. All right? Well, that's what number 15 in the book for guys is all about. Surprise her with a spontaneous mini date. See, actually, the women are kind of getting you're not supposed to read each other's books, but I guess we can't avoid it in this format.
Right.
So
all the women are out there taking notes like, honey.
So, actually, we have some friends, and one of the wives said to her husband, "You're reading Matt's book, aren't you?"
That's right.
She wasn't complaining.
No.
She was liking what was happening.
She was very suspicious, though.
Surprise your wife with a spontaneous mini date. Coffee, smoothies, herbal tea, kombucha. Hey, find out what she likes, know what she likes, and take her to that little hole-in-the-wall cafe that she loves. Or maybe find a spot that you can introduce her to that she hasn't been. And add conversation about the day. Just be interested in her. And suddenly you're having a date with your girl, and she's feeling loved. You can hear the other guys, right? Wait a minute, you just spontaneously decided to go out on a date for no particular reason to have a drink together just because you like being with her? Ha! You're making all of her friends jealous, but that's okay. Keep up the good example to all the other husbands. They might take a hint. Marriages need a lot more husbands just like you.
Mm-hmm. That's encouraging.
So anyway, so that's an example of some of the content. Do you have something else that... Oh, you probably have another story from people, don't you?
I do. Okay, here's one. So we've talked about someone's from testimonies from people who've been married maybe a few short years, but here's one that I found surprising and really beautiful as well. And it's I received my 100 Ways books, and I have read both of them. You're only supposed to read your own, but that's all right. We won't hold it against Joyce. She said, I am overwhelmed with excitement. My husband and I have been married for almost 48 years.
Wow.
48. And over the last few years, it seems our love is dying. Last year, my mom had a stroke, and she's now living with us. My life is really stressful now. After reading the one about loving your husband, I felt guilty, and I knew I had been neglecting my husband during all of this. I had been so involved with her welfare that I haven't had time to take care of his and mine. I loved both of the books, and it makes me want to just grab hold of my husband and never let him go. Thank you so much. That was just really sweet. And our hearts really go out to her because we do know that what that's like to be caring for someone you love. And it does take a toll on your life and your time and your energies. And yet we can't neglect that most important relationship we have with our spouse.
Yeah, absolutely. 48 years. That's awesome. Wow. So here a woman wrote in and she said, "These two books are the greatest self-help books I've ever read. I'm not usually a big fan of these kinds of books. Hey, sister, neither are we. But these are perfect and true in every way." All right. And so there is, I can understand why somebody would call them self-help books. They're not really thought of or written in that spirit. But they will help you. They will help you love your spouse in concrete, meaningful ways that will just bring depth, richness, and joy to your marriage. All right, and just thumbing through. Yeah, number 8 talks about showering with your wife every chance you get. Okay. Yeah.
That's a Matt moment right there. All right, I've got one. Number 88, always remain lovers. Do the kinds of things that lovers do. Touch him as you pass in the hall. Reach for him in the middle of the night. Turn up the heat and turn down the music. Slow dance. Kiss and hang on tightly.
All right, so the last one that I want to read for everybody, it's number 50, and it's about being a faithful man. Now, I know that the men listening and the wives listening, if your man want to be a faithful man and the wife listening wants her husband to be a faithful man. Guys, you got to listen to this one. This is about speaking security and just a sense of peace into your wife's heart. Number 50, keep your heart at home even when you travel. Teach yourself the best place is at home, by her side. You're not a victim of all the opportunities to sin out there. You make the choice when faced with the many temptations and inducements to pull your heart away from what is best and highest. No man ever made a snap decision to be unfaithful. When men allow their hearts to be pulled away from home, it's a long, incremental process. So recognize your responsibility and keep your heart desiring home, which is to say, keep your heart desiring your wife. The man with roving affections has an insecure wife, not to mention an upset creator, because God doesn't want your affections roving. And that wife, that insecure wife, she will always begrudge the time that you have away with the guys or doing something outside the home. She's going to feel insecure about that. But a man whose wife knows his heart is at home will practically kick him out of the door to spend time with his buddies. I like to tell Lisa when I'm going somewhere, when I'm on a trip, I'm just on my way out the door, I look her in the eyes and I say, "Babe, I'm walking out this door, but my heart is staying right here. I'm your faithful man." So to that end, I want to say something to everybody who is interested in, a little something extra. So many of you have seen the Faithful Man wristband that I've shown on InstaStory a time or two. And so these are little wristbands that I sell at faithfulman.com. So if you're interested in getting a Faithful Man wristband for free, I'd love to send you one. Here's what I'd like you to do. Buy the bundle.
The 100 ways to love your husband and wife?
100 ways to love your husband, 100 ways to love your wife. Buy the bundle. And everybody, how many should I do? The first, I kind of have to limit it to
25?
Something, 25. The first 35.
Oh, just like you.
The first 35 people who email me with a picture or a screenshot of your order from Amazon, the first 35 of you, just email that to me with your address, and I will send you for free a Faithful Man wristband. I would love to do that for everybody. So
that's cool, honey.
Yeah. So, and all you have to do is that's mlj@faithfulman.com. Okay. So just email me with your order and screenshot, and there we are. I'd like to send you a Faithful Man wristband at no charge.
Oh, that's fun.
So anyway, so there we are. Listen, we hope you enjoyed our discussion about the 100 Ways books, and we hope that you got a sense of the power of these books, as simple as they are, as straightforward as they are. We hope you really got a sense of the power that they've had in people's lives. They will have that same positive impact in your marriage and in your life. And so, as part of the Faithful Life community and us trying to get the word out on our books, we just love it if you would share on your social media or with people that you know about these books. And would you go and pre-order these books?
And for those of you who don't realize, pre-ordering is very helpful for getting that word out, because it lets Amazon know and other booksellers that, yeah, people really are interested in this message. And in this day and age where so many marriages are falling apart, where the biblical Christian marriage is not being upheld, it's just a great signal to send to those book places like, yeah, people still want this kind of love, this kind of biblical marriage.
Yeah. So just remember, the special offer of the free wristband, the Faithful Man wristband, is just black with white lettering. That free offer is for the first 35 people who buy the bundle. And the nice thing about the bundle is, look, if you're going to get both books, and frankly, most people do, that's how they usually sell, is the husband and the wife get them. They are standalone. But if you get both books and you intend to do that, don't buy them individually. Buy them as a bundle, because you get 25% off when you do that. So just remember that we want to send you these wristbands. So first 35, the wristbands are coming your way. Just email me and I'll get them out to you.
And if you're looking for them on Amazon, because this is the kind of thing I do all the time, you're going to want to type in your search bar 100 Ways to Love Your Husband, Wife, and then say bundle or paperback bundle, and that'll bring you to the right spot if you're just doing a search from nowhere. Otherwise, we'll have the link in our show notes, so it'll also show up there.
So we just want to say goodbye. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Yes, and remember, our God is our rock and our Redeemer.
He knows exactly what your week holds, and He knows what you're facing.
He loves you and is for you.
So this week, draw near to God, and He will draw near to you.